Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Since July of 2021, Jake and his friends have interviewed professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and many more. Who will they be chatting with in this week's interview? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chris Bixby, and with me today, our other co-hosts, Matthew Johnson and Matt Bingel, and our host, Jake Deffinbaugh. How are you guys?
Doing great. How about you?
Great.
I'm doing great as well.
Cold.
Yes. So today's interview, very excited about today's interview. Most Disney Channel fans tuning into this will mostly know him as Dylan Piper in the Halloweentown movies, and he's done a bunch of other roles in acting as well. And he is Joey Zimmerman, or J. Paul Zimmerman. How are you, Joey?
I'm doing. You can call me Jay. I'm doing great today. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So to start this off, we know who you are, but for those who don't, can you tell a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I was in all four of the Disney Channel Halloweentown movies, playing Dylan, and it's taken up a good chunk of my life at this point. I'm very proud of it. And beyond that, I have done a couple of TV shows. I've done a couple other little movies and a lot of guest star appearances on shows like that 70s show and Becker and things like that. And I'm a big fan of theater, which is where I've spent a lot of the last couple of years.
Nice. Really
Awesome.
nice.
Awesome. Can you talk about your background and how you grew up?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm lucky enough to be the son of other artists. My dad is an actor, and my mother is a musician. She used to play violin, and they met during the performing of a musical, and kind of had some chemistry right away. And so, I was lucky enough to have the arts be a very important part of my upbringing from a young age, and emulating movies and TV shows that I was a fan of, and then later hearing about from my dad, what exactly acting was, and learning that I could pretend professionally. Was just a huge it was a huge draw. It was a great idea, and I became very interested in pursuing that at a very young age.
Nice.
So can you tell us how you first got into acting?
Sure. My family I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And when I was 3, my family moved us out to Southern California, so my dad could be closer to acting and pursue that himself. And I kept tagging along with him to auditions and learning more and more about it. And finally got an agent of my own and got some auditions of my own. And one of the first was for a McDonald's commercial for some new Happy Meal toys. And that ended up being my first job. I had to pretend to be interacting with some, I think it was Tiny Toons, actually, some Tiny Toons characters.
Oh, wow.
And nice. I just remember having so much fun doing the same thing over and over all day, which was good because that's 99% of what it is.
Nice.
So getting into the acting field, who were some of your inspirations?
Well, from a young age, I've always been into Star Trek, and so I'm a huge fan of William Shatner's work. Seriously, I love his acting style. I think he's fantastic, and he's so much fun to watch, and that's really just something to aspire to as a performer, and as an entertainer. And I've always been into horror movies as well. And
yes.
One of my very first fan favorites was and always will be Bruce Campbell. I followed his work for years and years, and tried to sort of match a lot of what I was doing in the family horror genre of like, oh, I want to be like Bruce Campbell, even if it's in Halloweentown, just hanging out with Benny, like that's
Yeah.
what's going through my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm sure all the fans tuning in are wondering, how did you land the role of Dylan Piper in Halloweentown?
I remember that being a very long process. There were a lot of auditions, a lot of rounds of casting for that before they finally made their choices. I think they wanted to match some of us up against each other. I may have, I may have met Kimberly at some point in the audition process along with everybody else weeks ahead of us actually working together. So I remember there being a lot of that. And I remember it being a very, at first it was an audition just like any other. It was just a call I got from my agent and a new script to check out. And but I remember it being very interesting because I'd never been really asked to do a character before. Like I wasn't really a nerd as a kid, and then suddenly this role comes along that I hadn't thought of myself in before. And after that, I don't know if it was partly Dylan's influence, but the pieces did click into place, and I became more of a nerd in the years that followed. But for the most part, it was kind of this new and interesting thing, and almost frustrating. Like, oh, I love Halloween and scary stuff, but I got to pretend that I don't, and
Yeah.
that's always a real funky thing. It started off just like anything else, and then the more rounds there were, and the more I got called back for it, just the more exciting it became. Like, hey, this might actually turn into something really, really fun. Had no idea about sequels and stuff at the time. Obviously, it just looked like a fun project. And then finally getting the call, I remember just being very happy that I got the job because, like I said, at that point, it had become very, very exciting. I had seen that Judith Hoag was on the casting list, one of the possibilities, and that made it even more exciting for me as a longtime Ninja Turtles fan. And
Nice.
there was so much that just that really fell into place, and it felt like the perfect. It just felt like the perfect job once it came along.
Yeah, and on top of that, now since then you're a part of the Disney family, which is a very big family.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely grown since the 90s. I will say that. So what was it like meeting the casting crew for the first time?
It was amazing. The people that I was already familiar with, like Judith and Debbie Reynolds, of course, it was just it was an incredible experience getting to not only meet them, but know that we were all going to be working together on the same project. Debbie was she was so real. She was so down to earth. She's just this piece of classic old Hollywood, but she wasn't outside of the rest of us. You know what I mean? She didn't separate herself from us. She and I were on the exact same commercial flight going from Los Angeles up to Portland, where we shot the first movie. And I remember just walking up to her on the plane in mid-flight saying, "Hi, Debbie, I'm gonna play your grandson in this movie. How you doing?" And we talked for a few minutes. Everyone must have been sitting around, must have just been like, "What's going on here?" But she was always there for us. She was always available, not the kind of person who would go and disappear in a trailer in between takes. She talked to us kids, and she really made us feel like she was grandma, and that was an incredible experience. Judith, I waited until the very last day of filming before I admitted to her how big of a Ninja Turtles fan I was, and she was also very cool about it. And so getting to work with her, and then again in the sequels, knowing that Judith Hoag was my mom now was a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah.
And as far as everyone else, that I hadn't been fans of beforehand, like Kimberly and Emily, Phil, I think I knew about because I think he was doing Hey Arnold at the time, so I did know his work, and I think I knew him through some other friends and social circles, and knew he was always a good guy. But just everything felt so groovy, coming together with all of us. Again, no idea if there was, sequels didn't even enter into any of our minds at the time. Everything felt so right. We felt like a family, and we all liked working together right from the start. And it's just such a great experience when that happens.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Nice.
All right. So, do you have a
Yeah.
favorite out of the 4 Halloweentown movies?
Absolutely. I do get asked that a lot, and I keep trying to, I try to give it fair thought every single time in case it changes, but I always come back to the first one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
That very first one, just, being in Halloweentown for the first time, and us 3 kids together running around, fighting the bad guys, solving the mystery, doing the thing. To me, it just doesn't get any more fun than that.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Similarly, do you have a favorite scene or line from any of the Halloweentown movies?
Yes, I have a lot of. My mind's going nuts right now because I've got so many like favorite moments like on and off screen.
Yeah.
Anything to do with. I'll just start throwing them at you. Anything to do with Benny, I'm always down
Oh
with. He's
yes.
my favorite character.
Love
I
Benny.
love skeletons and animatronic stuff, and so just anything Benny. Um, the day where we were in Benny's taxi cab riding around all day, that was one of the most fun days of filming because it was just us hanging out and goofing off all day. And I absolutely love Dylan's line where he talks about Arbor Day and says trees are important too, because I feel like that's that's so Dylan.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
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 Love that. Love that.
Do you still remember any of the spells from the movie?
I I remember Trappa.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Right, the reverse gray spell one, right? Is that
yeah, that's probably the easiest spell to remember.
Yeah,
yeah?
honestly.
And for me, it got sort of drilled into my head because I worked at Target for a couple of years, many years ago, and some of my coworkers at the time found out I was in Halloweentown. A lot of them would start running up to me and just shouting "Trappa" and then moving on with their day. It was
That's
wonderful,
amazing.
and it never got it made me laugh every single time.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned a bit a couple minutes ago working with Debbie Reynolds. Can you share like a specific like fondest memory of working with her?
I remember her. She did impressions all of the time on set, especially when the kids were around, even if they were impressions of people that we had no idea who they were. She did like Katharine Hepburn a lot, and I remember Jimmy Stewart was probably the one that I heard the most out of her. She would just in between takes start rambling as Jimmy Stewart, and I learned later that apparently was a huge thing for her. Like all her life, she had been known for doing impersonations, and that really resonated with me because at the time I was doing a lot of improv theater and performing, and I had considered myself to be a big impressionist. So I was like, oh wow, me and Debbie have that in common, and it was just really, I remember that being really that was really like personally heartwarming to me.
Oh,
I love that she was a fan of Hollywood as well as being an icon of Hollywood.
yeah, rest in peace. Like
Yeah.
honestly, she sounds like she
Yeah.
was definitely just an amazing person to work with.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So, do you still keep in touch with anyone from Halloweentown?
I moved away from LA a couple of years ago, so I don't keep as close touch with people as I would like to. But once a year there's the Spirit of Halloweentown festival up near Portland, Oregon, in St. Helens, where we shot the original film. And for the past couple of years, I've been lucky enough to be invited up there along with people like Emily and Phil. And Kimberly was there a couple of years ago, which was great. So kind of there's been this opportunity, even though it's once a year, to have the chance to stay in touch with people. And sometimes, because we're all adults now, Emily's got a family. Kimberly just got engaged. Phil just got engaged. I got married a couple of years ago, and so I would imagine that it's difficult. It would kind of be difficult anyway to keep in touch as much as all of us would like. Now that there's so much going on, but having that festival every year, getting invited back, getting to spend even just a weekend with these folks brings back a lot of memories and brings us all a little bit closer every time. So, I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
So here's a pretty interesting question I have.
Sure.
Would you say that you're similar to Dylan in any sense?
Very much so. We are probably more similar than we are not similar. I'm a huge nerd, but I fall more on the side of being like a sci-fi horror movie nerd. Whereas I would imagine Dylan was not allowed to experience a lot of that stuff and be a fan of that stuff growing up. So he's much more of that book learning style that I enjoy, but I'm definitely more on the side of like movies and TV and games. I'm a Dungeons and Dragons guy. I love gaming, and yeah. So, and I would imagine that he was probably not allowed to play any Dungeons and Dragons. So, so yeah, a lot of similarities. With a few very specific differences thrown in.
Yeah, so another thing I wanted to bring up is of course in the fourth Halloweentown, Marnie, the actress for Marnie was changed from Kimberly to Sarah Paxton. What was it like working with her?
Sarah was great. She was super fun. I remember we hung out a lot after shooting. Me and her and Lucas and some of the other folks who were in the movie. We spent a lot of time together. So that was a lot of fun, and it was a new experience because when in the first one working with Kimberly, I was very young, and it was very much like, hey, let's play pretend and pretend we're a family, and it's fun to have brothers and sisters and stuff like that. And it was a different way of looking at it and approaching it as an adult. You come at it, you're very professional. Oh yes, hello, we are working together and we are creating this relationship. So it's a different process, and but still very fun. And she made it super easy. And I can imagine how tough it may have been for her stepping into a kind of a pre-made role like that, because that's something I've never had to do. But she was great about it, and she was a lot of fun to work with.
Awesome. If there were to be a fifth Halloweentown, would you be down to reprise your role?
Yes, 100%. I would reprise the role. I would come in, and peek in and do like a cameo or something if they didn't want me to play the same role again. And just however it happens, I would absolutely love to be a part of some other Halloweentown movie or series.
Okay, I was just gonna quickly bring up if you were to come back as Dylan, what do you think Dylan would be doing now?
I think Dylan would have I think he would be in Halloweentown, but I think he would still have a job that's very Dylan. Like I could imagine
comic book store.
Yeah, comic book store. Or I could see him teaching something boring like human history over at the Witch University, like that, or running the library, like in some very Dylan-y support role to whatever was going on in the main storyline.
Well, I was just gonna say, well, it is the age of Disney giving old movie sequels, more sequels
Reboots,
and reboots and remakes and revivals. So
definitely.
and there is Disney Plus, so
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Definitely. So growing up, do you have a favorite like Halloween memory?
I had lots of great Halloweens because my mother is extremely skilled when it comes to sewing things together. So whether it was like a shirt that I wanted with some fancy crazy pattern that she would just custom make, or
Mhm.
I could show her a picture from a comic book, one picture sort of thing, and she could put together a custom Halloween costume. So I had a lot of fun ones. I had my friend one year my friend and I, actually I think it was the year that the movie came out, when the first Mortal Kombat movie came out in 1995. My
Mhm.
best friend at the time and I went as Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and
Oh wow.
we didn't
Yeah.
have to buy any. I think we bought like some of
Oh.
the basic black gear, but then like all of the accessories. I was Scorpion. She made like a pretty cool mask for me and made the yellow
Mhm.
parts, and I was just I was pretty lucky in that respect.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely for me too. I have a lot of interesting Halloween memories. Trying to remember, I think
Yeah.
the earliest Halloween memory I can remember, I was probably like 4 or something. I think I was Clifford,
The
the big
earliest
red dog.
I can
Oh wow.
remember
Yeah.
is I don't even know how old. There's a picture in my scrapbook, and I was like a sailor. I don't
A
know,
sailor, yeah.
but yeah, just a
The,
generic sailor.
Yeah.
the earliest one I remember, I don't even know how old I was. I was young. I was Scooby Doo one year.
Scooby-Doo, yeah.
I can't remember how long ago it was. It was like, I don't know, 20 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Did you get to have a whole mystery gang, or was it just
No, it
solo
was
Scooby?
that would have been something if it was a Scooby gang, but it was just Scooby.
Right
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. My earliest Halloween memory would probably have to be I honestly don't remember what my first like costume ever like wear for Halloween while I was like young, but the earliest I can think of is like dressed up as a ghost or something. But I don't know what year when that
Yeah.
it's been a while.
So, do you have any memorabilia from your work over the years that you'd like to share or talk about?
I have moved so much over the years and outgrown so many things that I don't have a lot of stuff anymore. I do have a copy of uh, the storybook that Grandma reads to us in the first
That
movie.
has how
Oh
the Halloween
yeah.
Town one.
Yeah, they
Oh
made a
my
couple extra
gosh!
copies for
Wow.
us kids, and so that is definitely somewhere that is safe. But there wasn't a lot that I kept with me besides that. I remember in the third one, because
Yeah.
we had the high school, they created a lot of pretty cool apparel, sports shirts and school gear for that made up high
Mhm.
school. And I remember taking some of that and wearing it until it didn't fit me anymore. But I don't think I have any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was hard to think about taking, souvenirs because
It's a
there
it's
was
Disney.
it's Disney. Yeah, they do like to hang on to a lot of their stuff. But on
Yeah.
top of that, again, we had no idea that everything was going to be so huge.
Yeah.
It was just kind of another job, and we took the memories, and that's because that's what we normally took away from things, and then it was just kind of
Mhm.
a kind of a shocker that the sequel came up a couple of years later, and then even more so now, however many years later, seeing memes and starting to see it on social media is I think when I realized,
Yeah.
wow, this might actually still be pretty huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
how does it feel that the Halloweentown movies are as huge as they are, that they have this like they still have this
Yeah.
huge following all these years later?
It's very special because not only is it something popular, but it's popular in all of these amazing circles. Like it's a
Mhm.
family film. So not only do people enjoy it and watch it with each other, they enjoy it and then they show it to their kids. So they even before we had Disney Plus, we had people taping the movies and then like showing them to their kids.
DVDs.
Yeah.
DVDs.
Yeah.
And kind of keeping it alive that way, through the generations. And something else that I love about it is it frequently appears on lists of wholesome, non-triggering, or however you want to describe it, Halloween content, stuff that you can enjoy if you're not really into being scared
or for your kids.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's got some very special followings that are still that are still very faithful, and that means a lot because that's hard to find.
I know for sure they air this year. They still aired the first two Halloween Towns on Disney Channel because I still have Disney Channel. So I know they aired the first two. They didn't air the third or the fourth one, but they aired the first two. So
Yeah.
Nice.
I haven't had Disney Channel in a long time, so I've just been watching them on Disney Plus. Really, that's all I have.
Yeah, I've heard from friends that still have the Disney Channel. They're still, despite being able to just access them on Disney Plus whenever, they do still run them a lot.
Yeah.
On the
Yeah.
around that time of year.
Yep.
Sure.
Absolutely. So as an actor, what would you say you've learned or taken away the most from your career?
I think it's the fun of just how much fun you can have playing a character. As I said, Dylan at the time was a kind of a brand new concept of something for me to do. And having that world open up, and then not only that, but then having the character end up, being very significant for a lot of people. I've had people come to me and say, how they appreciated Dylan because it made them feel comfortable being a nerd, and it made them feel comfortable being weird and different. And, that means a lot. And and that's kind of what I've taken away, and why when a project comes along these days, it's a lot of theater. I really I most gravitate toward things that are the most different, something that's just, nothing quite like I've experienced before. It's always fun when there's at least one new thing that I can say, hey, I've been doing this for over 30 years and I've never had to do this before. And lot of challenges keep it interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Overall, what do you enjoy most about your work as an actor over the years?
I think it's when you get to not only getting to play a character, but when you do get to come back to that character, because there's so much opportunity for growth. There's in your, like in your personal life, things that you can reflect back on the work that you've done, and like there's getting to play Dylan so many times was a real treat. And it would be now. I've had so much life experience since the last time I played Dylan. It'd be great to bring a lot of that stuff and be able to play around with it. And I've gotten to do that in theater as well. I've gotten to play the same characters in the same shows, consecutively for years, or play the same character in different shows. Nice. And there's just something, it's such a joy to create the most three-dimensional experience that you can. And then when you have it connect with the audience, and they help create even more dimensions of it, it's then it becomes like a collaboration, between the actor and the audience. And it's like we're always going back and forth on making that character the best that it can possibly be. And that's just such a fun little process to be a part of.
Definitely, yeah. So we've talked a lot about your work in the past. Can you share any projects you are working on now?
Currently, I just started rehearsals for a production of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh, nice, really nice.
Ooh. I've read the book.
I've read the book and seen the movie.
I've seen the movie too. It's been years though.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a long time since I've seen the movie.
Same. Yeah, it's so I've had I've had a lot of people who are more familiar with the story fill in some of the blanks when I was going through the audition process, and it's again it's something different. I did not think that that's the role that I would be chosen for, and so far we're having a real good time. It's a short rehearsal process. We open on December 1st, and
Oh wow.
Nice.
it's a shorter show. I think it's definitely more family, more kid oriented. And yeah, I'm super excited because the last time I got to do a show was 3 years ago because of COVID and then moving
Because
around a
of
lot.
post-band, yeah. So
Yeah.
now musical theater, I know just like within like the last year recently got back. So
Yeah, now that people can go be in shows and see shows again, I've noticed a lot more of that happening. And that's very exciting because I need that to stay sane.
So, what piece of advice would you give to anyone who wants to get into acting?
I would say any kind of experience is the best experience that you're gonna get. So even if you want to get into acting, but you audition for a play and end up, on the crew side learning stage managing or something like that, that is still valuable experience you can take with you and have for later, because especially when you're just starting out, people have a lot of respect for someone who just likes to work. So it's hard to it's hard to be picky at that point, and you'll end up being grateful for it, I think, because you'll have experiences that you may not have necessarily chosen, but will end up being very very good for you.
Definitely.
as an actor, what challenges would you say you face during your career?
I would say a huge challenge is getting typecast into something for sure. Because as much fun as it always has been to play Dylan, and nerdy characters are fun, there was a period, I think, after that first movie got popular, or maybe even the second, where that seemed to be the only thing that I was getting called for and being asked to audition for. And I'm over here on one side saying, hey, that was a character, we can do something, we can do some other stuff, but that's just was not what they wanted to hear at the time. So that can be a huge challenge, is maybe being so good at something that it's hard to break. I mean, it's a great problem to have. You're so good at something that it's hard to do something else, but just from the artist side of that, like that can get frustrating when you are trying to do other stuff. There probably will always be the stigma about child actors and how messed up we all are. And there is a lot of truth to that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of fast growing up that you have to do, and learning about things at a pace that I may either would never learn about, or would learn about at a much more relaxed pace later on. And so, once you get into that mode, it can be hard to break. It can be hard to break out of it, and creates a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. There's a reason why a lot of that floats around, is because once you're used to that kind of image-based lifestyle, it's hard for that to go away and not affect your mental health in certain ways.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why certain child actors, even like after a couple of years, just kind of step away from it.
Yeah. It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So if people would like to contact you, where can people find you?
I am mostly on Instagram. My handle is jpaulzim.
Yep, and that's how That's how we got you, of
Yeah,
course.
and your social media would be description down below so people can follow you and everything. What would you like to say to your fans and supporters over your work?
I really just can't say thank you enough. This was never something that we expected to become as popular as it did. And a lot of that is due to how faithful the fans have been. Like I said, sharing it with the future generations. Something I hear a lot from Halloweentown fans is I made them watch it. I made this person watch it. And, hey, great.
Yeah.
That's what we love to hear. So thank you for making people watch Halloweentown, I guess.
Yes, definitely. So we're all
welcome.
Yeah, so we're almost about ready to wrap up. So Matthew, how about you kind of close us out with the last question?
Yeah. Of course, this podcast is called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. So we always ask this question as the last question. When you think of nostalgia, what do you think of, or how do you define the word nostalgia?
I define nostalgia as comfort food, in whatever capacity that is to you. Something from your past that is like comfort food to you, whether it is music or media, or it could be just I get nostalgic over just random smells every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's something that just takes you back and kind of is always guaranteed to put you in a little bit of a happy place,
Yeah, and of course Halloweentown,
sure.
that's definitely nostalgic too.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. We've absolutely enjoyed having you on.
Thank
Yeah,
you
so much fun. Thank you for asking me.
Yes.
Yes.
You're welcome. I'm glad glad you want to do this and
yes,
and keep up good work with what you're doing. And I'm glad for us knowing your work and you do a great job of what you're doing. And can't wait to see what's next for you.
Yes, definitely. It was great having you. So great.
Yeah, it was great having you, talking to you, and hearing your stories about Dylan. And
yes, definitely.
That's my pleasure. I love talking about it. I love sharing.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, everyone, this brings another episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show to a close. We've absolutely enjoyed our time with J. Paul Zimmerman. And more interviews coming up soon. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. We'll see you guys next time.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show interview. Be sure to follow Jake and the crew on social media and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.